Everyone, welcome. It's Tuesday night. You're here at CNM. Bingo's another night. Sorry if you thought if you're here for bingo, you're here the wrong evening. So if we can get you to come on in, make yourselves comfortable, so we can get our evening started. We have a great speaker tonight. We've got a few announcements. So come on in, make yourselves comfortable, get some goodies. All right. As you're coming on in, I will turn the mic over to Edie to lead us in prayer.
Shall we stand to honor God? Oh Lord, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. You didn't have to give us this day, but you did. You gave us this day so that we might live one more time. We might walk before you and walk in a way that is worthy. Lord, thank you. We thank you for everything that you have done for us up until this very time. And we especially want to thank you now for CNM. We thank you because of the people who have been so kind and so generous with their time and their talent. They've come to help us with resumes and with all kinds of other things that have anything to do with the job search. We thank you for the leadership team, which is responsible for keeping us encouraged and keeping us in the kind of atmosphere that will be helpful. Lord, we just want to be grateful for what you have done. We want to also ask you tonight for the people that you're sending, for that servant that you are sending right now. Tonight we're going to hear a speaker. Tonight we're going to hear announcements. We're going to hear our leadership team talk. And when we do, we just want to praise you because of the blessing that is going to come forth because of them. And at the end of this, we will not forget to give you praise, to give you honor, and to give you glory, because you do all that and some more. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Edie. Well, again, welcome everyone. What's always wonderful as the word gets out amongst our community about what a great group we have here, we actually have people that walk in the door sometime and say, guess what? I got jobs. Isn't that nice? We sort of like those when people come in and do that. And by the way, we also expect you to do that at some point, is when you land and you get your next great opportunity, what do we hope that you'll do? You'll say, gee, look at all these opportunities here at my company. Let me come back and let folks know at CNM that there's some opportunities here. So, Al, do you want to come up? Where's Al? Al, you've got some opportunities for us. So let's give Al a round of applause for making his way out. I guess the traffic's pretty miserable out there tonight. So he's really dedicated. He's really looking to fill these positions if he's going to fight all that traffic to get here. Thanks for being here, Al.
Thanks, man. How you doing? My name is Al Argel. Hi. Hi, Al. Hi, Al. Hey. I actually work for CSC, Computer Science Corporation. Normally we don't do this, and I'm not coming in on behalf of CSC. I'm actually coming in for myself. I'm a hiring manager and an IT manager, and I got a lot of opportunities for the right specific people in the IT field. If you guys know Wintel, Linux, Citrix, you guys could talk to me in the back later on, and if you have your resume, I could review them right away, and hopefully I could hire you within next week. That's how fast we've been trying to grab some people. But the thing is, normally if you don't have the right clearance or if you don't have the right knowledge, that's the stopping gap, and that's the reason why I got all these recs that I couldn't fill up for the past 90 days. And I'm hoping that one of you guys might be the lucky person for that one. So just come on in the back if you guys are in the right field that I am in. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Al. Just to be sure, are all of them cleared positions or some of them are not?
Not all of them are cleared.
Not all of them are cleared. Okay. All right, great. And I mentioned to Al, and I think he's going to try to do this, many of you may know that we encourage people that come to us with job opportunities to go ahead and post them in our LinkedIn group under the discussion section. It doesn't cost them anything to post it there. They can actually post that position, and what we encourage people to do is, especially someone like Al, which is, talk about awesome, he's the hiring manager. He's not just an employee saying, I think I've heard of an opportunity and I'm willing to take your resume and carry it to the HR person. He's the hiring manager. So how awesome is that? So thanks for being here, Al. Hopefully we can get you some folks and get those positions filled. I think there's some people out here that would like to work, so we'll see what we can do to help.
Yeah.
Okay, on that note, just as another reminder, Wednesday, May 14th, 7 to 9 p.m. at the Vienna Presbyterian Church. We have, it's now like our third annual maybe, or something like that, career networking night, where CNM partners up with Vienna Presbyterian. And it's a great evening. They have a guest speaker. Jim Lindsay is going to be presenting, but bottom line is, it's a great opportunity to sort of get some dinner to network. Actually, there are going to be some employers there participating in a job fair, including Innova, Freddie Mac, Northrop Grumman, Bread for the World. So there are going to be some good organizations there. It starts at 6:30, I guess, is registration. Networking dinner's at 7. Basically goes to 9 o'clock. It's a great opportunity. We've had many of our CNM participants go there. So, and you should have those flyers on your table. So please check that out. Okay. So, we always like to celebrate some intermediary successes. We have some other announcements, one other important announcement that we'll do here at the end. But to get us started, those of you that have had an in-person interview over the last week, would you please stand up so we can give you a round of applause? Great. Terrific. Keep standing. This is part of the CNM exercise program. So the next group we're going to have you join, it's going to join you standing up. We're going to be those people that have had a phone interview over the last week. Would you please stand up so we can give you a round of applause? Terrific. All right. The next group, no, still standing. The next group that we're going to have join you is those of you in the room that have at least met one other person through either networking events or through LinkedIn, have connected to one other person that you think is going to help you with your job search. Would you please stand up so we can give you a round of applause? Terrific. Now, now that you've gotten the routine, the group that's standing up, what do you say to the group that's sitting down? Get to work, right? Okay. All right. Now, there is one other group that we always like to recognize. You know, I still remember when I first showed up here like 5 years ago, and we had our one big room. We didn't have anywhere near as many breakout sessions, and we didn't have anywhere near as many people in the room, nor as many volunteers in the room. So it can be a little intimidating now to walk in and see all the things that are going on here, but we always want to give a warm welcome to those people that we know are the first timers, and we know you by your red border on your name tag. So would you please stand up so we can give you a round of applause for braving to come here tonight? Hey, thanks for coming. We don't fight, so come back again. We're really a very supportive group. In fact, one of the things we always remind you in the audience that more than anything, the best support that you get is from each other. Yep. Because that's really where you're going to find your jobs. That's where you're going to get the best support. And fortunately, we have a lot of volunteers that have come from your ranks that add to that support. I get to the point now where I go out and have business meetings, and I got to remind myself I can't go up and hug everybody. I almost did that the other day, and that was a little weird. So this really becomes an extended part of my family, and I think it will be yours as you continue to come back to it. So on that note, by the way, one quick tip that I'm going to give you, whenever you're reaching out to people through LinkedIn, one of the things to take a look at, there's a new field now. They used to have just check boxes about, you know, what are you open to? If you scroll down far enough on people's LinkedIn profile, you'll see tips on how they want to connect. And the tips that how I want you to connect with me is when I get to know you first, then I'll connect. So don't tell me in the audience, gee, you're such a nice guy now up front, you do all these wonderful things. Would you connect with me? I like to know you first. So if you do that, I'll always say, I'll see you next week, we'll get a chance to chat, then I'll connect with you. So take a look at that field, find out what people's preferences are in terms of how they want to connect, so you don't wonder why you're not being connected to when you reach out to someone. Okay? All right. So what's the best part of the evening that you can imagine, other than having a wonderful speaker? Best part of the evening is what? Victory laps. All right. And what's a victory lap?
When you get a job.
when you get a job. And a job can be, by the way, it can be a short-term contract opportunity. It can be, you know, your next best opportunity. It could even be a great volunteer opportunity that you found somewhere else. So Victory Laps, we're always excited to have because it means that people are leaving our ranks and actually getting gainfully employed. So Heidi, where are you? Would you come on up and give us your Victory Lap? Let's give her a round of applause. Woo-hoo!
Hey everybody. So I'm Heidi, and I was recently re-employed as of March 17th, I'm excited to say. Before that though, I have an interesting story because I was laid off not only once in 2013, but twice. Ooh. So I was back in Minnesota in May of last year. I got called into my boss's office, and it was notorious for having a filthy desk, and I should have known something was bad because her desk was very, very clean, and I was like, crud. And so I was let go. They had budget cuts and needed to get rid of marketing. So I was marketing, I was it. And I decided to move to Virginia. So networked, and I reached out to a number of my vendors that I was working with in Minnesota, said, hey, who do you know in Virginia? So I had vendors give me companies by the hundreds. And I literally just started at the top of this list and went top to bottom, checked every company to see if it was of interest, checked every position to see if it was a fit, and ended up finding a job before, it was like a month and a half after I was laid off. I was still getting severance actually when I found the job. So networking paid off well. So I get here, I start the job, and then October 24th, I got called into the office. My manager was missing, and I was like, should have known when the phone rang and I couldn't find my manager that something was amiss. Same thing, budget cuts. They had lost a contract and needed to cut marketing. So there I went again. And so I was extremely, extremely discouraged, very defeated, I would say, would probably be an understatement. And again, just started networking. So what I did was, I'm a veteran, and so I went to the unemployment office and just kind of tried to learn what opportunities there were specifically for veterans. And I found out about a job fair that was coming up in Annandale. And so I went to the job fair, went table to table. At one point, I must have been looking horrifically defeated because this guy puts his hand on my shoulder and was like, it was gonna be okay. And I literally almost cried right there on the spot. I was like, and I just put my hand up and turned away because I was like, you're caring right now, it's killing me. And so I went through the whole process. At that job fair, I met a guy who all he did was gave me a task. And he said, I need you to email me your resume. And I had taken notes on everybody that I'd met, but this guy in particular, I followed up with all of the tasks, but this guy in particular ended up being my connect to the job that I'm having now, or the job that I got. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting is that was in the beginning of November, and in December, I got a call, and the call was, hey, your resume was passed along to me. So I'd like to meet to discuss your skills. And so I met with the guy, and one thing he said during our first meet was, that gentleman that I met that day at the job fair, he had told everybody, email me your resume. I was one of the only people who actually followed through and sent my resume, and I just happened to be a good fit as well. It's not like I'm a programmer now doing marketing or something, but it was a good fit. But had I not followed through on that, there's no way I'd be in the position that I'm holding. So with all of that being said, I was very elated when I got the job offer and started. I guess my takeaway points would be 4. I have network. And so I landed my first job in Virginia simply because I reached out to my vendors to say, hey, what can you do? And I got companies. I took the time to actually follow through with those, made calls, sent emails to people I didn't know, but it worked. It was short term, but it worked. And then during the most recent bout of unemployment, like I said, had I not taken the time to actually follow through or go to this job fair that I had heard about through somebody that I had met, I wouldn't have the job that I have today. So networking is key. This is a great group for that, obviously. That's the name. So then follow through. Again, back to the resume. Had I not sent it, there's no way I'd have a job. if somebody asks you to do something through this unemployment process, just do it. If it's send an email, if it's link up with me, if it's, call me, if it's let's get together for coffee, just follow through and do it. Remember that you are not your job. You're not the money that you make. You are not the title that you carry. And there were some days that were so wickedly, wickedly defeating that it was just like, it's hard to not take personal. Thing number one, you were chosen to be let go or whatever the circumstance is, and that's hard. And so it would just be to just be patient, just understand that it's nothing but a temporary situation. And some days are going to be harder than others. Some days you're going to feel like you've been unemployed for 6 years, and maybe it's been 6 weeks. For me, it was 5 months, and it felt like 5 years. But ultimately, I'm hired. I know that my value, yes, I love having a job. It helps pay the bills and such. But I'm no better person with a job than I was without a job. Amen. So for those people struggling, be encouraged. It's temporary. The end is near. You'll find your job, and you'll be happy.
Oh, I can't wait for all of you to come up and do that stuff. Isn't that going to be fun? Can't you just wait to get up here and do your victory lap? Some of you may know I actually did an unvictory lap. I was like the CEO for a multi-office physicians practice for 13 days, and they changed their mind, decided they didn't want a CEO after all. How's that for? I actually got up and stood and did an unvictory lap, the lessons learned. So nothing's out of bounds around here. You just got to learn to put it out there and know that how do you go forward, be positive, keep your spirits up, always knowing that demons are going to come out. But what better a spot can you have than a group of people in here that are going through this, that are caring and supportive. So, can't say enough. But we have a wonderful speaker tonight, Alison Whitmire, and I love this. The intersection of...
Hold on.
Oh.
We got another victory lap.
Oh, we have another thing? Hello. That's somebody yelling at you. You're supposed to let me know in advance so we know how to time all this stuff.
I did.
Well, come on up. We can celebrate your victory lap. It's Deborah?
It's Deborah.
All right, here we go.
This is the second victory lap. I did one a year ago this month, at which point I got a job with Department of Labor and did my victory lap, and then was let go in the end of January due to government, need I say much more? Well, I just got a job and just started it last Tuesday with Veterans Affairs. So another contract, but hopefully this one is going to last more than 6 months. One of the things I learned through all of this is to listen. Listen to yourself, listen to God, because He puts angels in place for you to listen. I had somebody, Susan, who I met through the gym that I go to, said, hey, come to CNM. Come to CNM, come to CNM. I finally came around and came to CNM. Within a month from there, I got the job at DOL. Well, I convinced somebody else to come to CNM. And like I said, God puts angels where He needs them. He is now a lion on LinkedIn. He's been coming to these classes now for many, many months. And because of that, because of his advances, I'm proud. And I know he's going to land a job soon, and he'll be up here just like whomever else comes before me and after me. Let's hope, please, that I don't have to do this again for another very long time. But like I said, listen. Listen to Pascal when she tells you to reformat your resume. Listen to the LinkedIn folks back there when they say you need 100 at least links, connections. Listen to the people around here that are here for you. And that's the main thing that I can tell anybody with a red badge. Come back, listen to everybody here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Congratulations. Well, are there any more victory laps hanging out there that I don't know about? All right. I do know we have one other announcement. Jack Dunlap, who's been a loyal supporter of us and has presented many times, is here to give us an announcement. Here you go, Jack.
We are having another career reboot, and I apologize, I know it's real fast here. Thank you for having me in. Career reboot class, for those of you that don't know, haven't been there or heard of it, we take things from the very beginning straight through. It's very intensive. We're going to start this session on the 17th, which is a week from Saturday. They're from 9 o'clock in the morning till 12:30 in the afternoon, every Saturday except Memorial Day weekend, and runs through the 28th of June. Again, very intensive. We start at the beginning. You know, who are you? What are your skills? What are your gifts? And then what's your professional statement? What's your professional summary? And leading all the way through, doing the resume. The things you do here, but it's all linked together, and it's very, very interactive. So if anybody is interested, my email is jack.dunlap@verizon.net. This is a joint process, a program that we're putting on with the Falls Church Anglican. That's where the jobs ministry is, combined with all of you folks here. Also, in this particular one is going to be held at Vienna Presbyterian Church. So I will give you all the information. If you're interested, please email me. Again, jack.dunlap@verizon.net. You can also call me on my cell phone, 703-855-0810. That's 703-855-0810. Talk to your friends and people who have been there. A number of the folks here have been there. And call me if you have any questions. And thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Can you put that in our LinkedIn? Can you make it?
Yeah.
Great.
We'll send that over to you.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, I would tell you more about how wonderful Alison is. I think we've already chewed up plenty of her time, so I'm going to let her tell you how wonderful she is. So, and I can't wait to find out what the version of me is that's the best. So I hope I'm going to learn that tonight. So, Alison, it's all yours.
Thank you. I have a confession to make. When I hear about talks with the word purpose in the title, like mine was before I changed it, I kind of gag a little. And I gag a little because I think when I'm not the best version of myself, I think I know what those talks are going to say. I think they're going to say, find your purpose, follow your bliss, live the life of your dreams. All you have to do is work hard, never give up, and don't ever, ever, ever quit, because quitters quit, and you quit on your life, and you quit on your dreams. Don't quit. You can have it all. The problem I have with that is it's just half the story. See, I believe that life is more complicated than that life is a paradox, and you all are living in that paradox. So what's a paradox? It's not a word that's used every day. A paradox is a statement or a proposition that seems self-contradictory and yet is reality expresses a possible truth. Okay, so what's a paradox? Example. Robert Frost, who's a writer and a poet, has this paradox for us. And paradox is often used in poetry and in writing to convey a complicated concept and allow the reader to bring their own meaning to it. So Robert Frost gives us this paradox. Men work together, whether they work together or apart. Who wants to say what that means to them? Anybody? This is the interactive portion. Yeah, please.
People cooperate whether they're in the same physical place or whether they're different.
People cooperate, whether they're in the same place or different places. Someone else want to take a stab at that? Yes?
We're all connected no matter what.
We're all connected, no matter what. I can say I'm completely isolated and then get up in the house in the bed that's built by somebody else, work on clothes that was created by somebody else, drive my car that was built by somebody else, go to the store and buy clothes, food, anything created by someone else. None of us are in this alone. We all work together. And so that brings us to what I call life's ultimate paradox, which is this, is that we each possess unique strengths and gifts with which to create a purposeful life. And in order for us to get to use those gifts, at some level, we have to conform. We have to conform to what the world wants of us. Right? And so that's the paradox. Can you see it? Unique, conform. Okay, we're going to explore this a little further. And I'll tell you, it is our ability to resolve this paradox that determines the impact we can make in the world. So Fortune came out with their list of the 50 greatest leaders in the world. And here are 4 of the leaders that they identified. 1, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton wrote an article for Fortune and was asked what attributes that leaders share. And this is what he said. And listen to the language he uses. Steadfastness in pursuit of a goal, flexibility in determining how to achieve it, courage to make the hard decision, common sense to listen to others, strength to admit you made a mistake, and able to trust others. And this is what he says in a single sentence. This is like his paradox resolving sentence. You have to be able to compromise as well as know the lines you can't cross. He was a brilliant political centrist and incredibly able to resolve life's paradox. Take Pope Francis. Pope Francis has single-handedly reinvigorated 1.2 billion Roman Catholics. And he's done it by the way he's led. He has refused to occupy the palatial, papal apartment. He drives around Rome in a Ford Focus. He has washed the feet of a Muslim prisoner. He is leading through empathy. He has, for the first time in 1,000 years, formed an 8 cardinal group to look at reform of the church. So now, not only, it's not the church saying, okay, world, this is how you need to be. Pope Francis is saying, world, how might we be? Right? Completely different. And in doing so, he's having an enormous impact. In fact, a poll was taken in March that said 1 in 4 Catholics said they had increased their giving to the poor. And 77% of them cited the Pope as the reason why. It's remarkable. Bono, in addition to being the lead singer for U2, who has the time, evidently he does, he has single-handedly negotiated with leaders of large companies to forgive the debt of smaller countries. And he has worked with administrations and big companies to combat AIDS across the world. You've got Warren Buffett. He's the CEO and lead visionary for the 5th largest company, most valuable company in the United States. And he leads that company through values and autonomy and by listening. These people have resolved that life paradox and do so effectively. So what's the point of all this? The point of all this is that each of us can shape the world. Shape the world by resolving life's paradox. And that we must shape ourselves to do it. So I've said a little bit about this idea, this concept of the life's paradox, and I'll tell you an example of how it shows up in the real world for me, so we take it out of concept and bring it into where the rubber meets the road. And then I'd love to hear from you how this shows up in your life. So here's an example. I have a strength, though I haven't always thought it was a strength, and sometimes other people don't think so either. I have a strength of being the person in the room who says what no one else will say. Right? I mean, there's 15 people around the table, and if there's a bubble over their head, they would all say the same thing. Right? And no one's saying it, and I will. So for a long time, that did not feel like a strength because I did it so badly. I mean, I would end up derailing the conversation and getting in a hornet's nest and not moving the organization forward because I didn't know how to shape myself. I didn't know how to take that strength of mine and shape it in order to move forward. So that's what that paradox has looked like for me. I'm curious, what about any of you? What does the paradox look like for you? Anyone? Please.
I guess the paradox for me looks like, that God's Son came and died on the cross and accepted God's wrath. I guess that's a paradox.
Sure. Say it again. That is beautiful.
I guess life's ultimate paradox for me looks like God's Son died on the cross for our sins so that we didn't have to experience God's wrath.
And then how does that show up for you? What does that mean to you in day to day?
I guess I learn more and more each day, but what does it mean to me? It means I don't have to experience God's wrath and I can continue in life forgiven. So I can continue seeking and use my strengths for Him instead of using them for the world.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share about how this shows up for you? I'm curious, does it make sense? Is it landing? Can you get an idea? Someone gave an example the last time I gave this talk that's sales. Like sales was the consummate challenge for the life's paradox. It's like, oh, I really want them to buy, I really want to say anything. But boy, the more I talk, the less I'm listening. And that's where, the less I'm really understanding what their needs are. And that's that ultimate paradox again, in a very practical sense. So what I'm going to do is go down and talk about each side of the paradox individually. Talk about the strengths piece and then the conform piece. And some of this is going to sound very familiar to you, because I know you focus on strengths. So my belief is that each of us has, everyone in this entire room, in fact everyone in the world, has a unique set of strengths, gifts, talents. In fact, no two, I believe, are the same. We're like snowflakes. We're completely separate and completely unique. And the only way I can get my head around that idea is that each of us has then unique work to do, work that is ours to do and ours alone to do. And that if we don't do that work, someone else will. And we can shape the world by doing that work that is ours to do. So I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. We're going to do an exercise. And so I'm going to give you advance notice. I'm going to ask you in a moment how you have shaped the world. And all of us are going to do this exercise. And I'm going to give you an example by illustrating a little bit of how it goes. Okay. So first of all, how many of you have heard of Simon Sinek in a TED Talk called Start With Why? Anyone? Yeah? Anyone else? A couple? Three? Do any of you know it well enough to be able to say what it's about? Yeah, go.
Or I'll get the wrong technique.
Okay.
But I believe he drew 3 circles.
He did.
Why at the center, and then how, and then what.
Yeah, exactly.
And
we began by analyzing Apple's process. And so Apple doesn't start with the product, they start with the why, and then how, and then the what.
Exactly.
So at least I got the right talk, which is...
That's the right talk.
And so anyway, that was the point, was to reverse it, not start with the widget, but start with the differences.
Exactly. So Simon Sinek gave a talk, and the essence of the talk was this, was that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he repeats it in the talk. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this is particularly relevant as you think about how you show up, how you think about how you show up in networking, to each other here, to prospective employers. People will buy why you do what you do. So it's important that you know what you believe, beyond your religious beliefs, and that's important, but what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about what's important in the world? That's what Simon talks about. And so the reason I bring that up is it has something to do with how I've shaped the world. So in 2009, I created one of the first ever TEDx conferences in the United States. And I came up with a theme and a vision for that, and then I stumbled upon Simon, and I had Simon speak at my conference. Since Simon spoke at my conference in 2009, his talk has gone on to get over 17 million views, be translated into 42 languages, and I get requests almost every week to license his talk. So I'm sharing this because I have a fair amount of ambivalence around this being how I've shaped the world. Now, I may never do anything in my entire life more than this to shape the world. And when I discount myself, as so often we do, it's easy for me to say, it wasn't my message. It wasn't me delivering the talk. I wasn't up there. All I did was give him the stage. And when I step into my strength, my unique combination, my snowflake, I realized that was me being on purpose. I was using my gift of creativity, my gift of visioning, and my connectivity, my connecting that talk to lots and lots of people in my network, which made it go viral, which helped it get those 17 million hits. And I say that because it's so easy for us all to really discount our strengths. And that we're going to look in a moment about that. So before we jump into the next exercise, I'm going to ask you, how many of you have heard of this thing called the butterfly effect? Yeah, okay, so lots of people. So who wants to tell me what the butterfly effect is? Please.
That's where if a butterfly flutters in Africa, then it's going to affect something way across the world, half the world.
Right. Right. And what's the point of it? So what you said was, is that with a butterfly kind of flaps its wings in South America, it can create a tornado in Houston or something like that, right? So what's the point of that? I mean, what's that mean?
Well, I take it to mean that whatever I do is going to have an effect that I don't even know what those effects are, because maybe I'm tutoring this person, I don't know who he is then going to go and pastor, or he is going to go teach, or whatever. My little thing that I'm doing, I don't know where it's going to go.
That's right.
I look at it as an investment.
That's right. So the small, tiny differences in what one person or one entity can do can have enormous, broad-scale impact further out. So that's the frame in which I'd like you to think about stepping into this next exercise on how you've shaped the world, is be thinking about the butterfly effect you've had on the world. So on your tables, there is a handout, and it says Shaping the World, Deep Dive. So I'm going to walk you through this exercise that we're going to do. I'll describe the whole thing. You've got it written out in case I go too fast or lose you. So this is what we're going to do. You're going to select a partner you don't know, and then Identify a time in your life when you shaped the world. When you shape the world. It can be a proud moment. It can be an event you put on. It can be an accomplishment you made. It can be someone you tutored. It can be anything that made you feel fulfilled, that made you feel on purpose. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is the tallest person is going first. Whoever that is. Tall wins. And the tallest person is going to be the sharing partner first. Okay? And sharing partners, I want you to share your story with your partner as if they are your best friend. So this is my best friend. Her name's Luann. We were 6th grade locker mates, and we became best friends since then. And we've been through marriages and divorces and births and deaths and diagnoses, and we've been best friends throughout. And our lives could not be more different. For the last 35 years, we've lived in different cities. And to tell us how different our lives have been, she has a grandson that's 2 years younger than my son. Dramatically different. And yet, she's the person I can tell anything to and have. And there isn't anything I wouldn't share with her. So I'm going to ask you to take that feeling you have for your best friend, and think about your best friend in your mind's eye, and bring that to your partner. And lean into the conversation with your partner in a way that you would with your best friend, seeing the best in them. So sharing partners, share your story about what the situation was, what you did, how you did it, what happened, what made you proud, what was meaningful about what you did, what are the obstacles you overcame, and importantly, how do you feel like you shaped the world. And listening partners, this is very important. Listening partners, I want you to be listening to the sharing partner, and really listening only. And listening for who they're being. Who are they being at their essence? Are they being courageous? Are they being thoughtful? Are they being brave? How are they being? And then what strengths are they using? Even the ones they might not say. Read in between the lines. What strengths are they using? Creativity, organization, analytics, whatever it is. And then what's the impact you hear that they made? And we're going to be taking notes on that on the reverse side. You can see on the reverse side, there's places for listening partners to take notes on what their sharing partner is saying. So I'm going to give 5 minutes for sharing partners to talk to the listening partners. And after 5 minutes, I'm going to say switch, and listening partners are going to then tell the sharing partners what they heard, the notes they took, what they heard in terms of who their partner was being, what they were doing, and the impact we are making. And then we'll debrief and then reverse. And so here's the key, is listening partners, no talking. If for some reason your sharing partner completely runs out of anything to say, you can ask a question, and only a question, and only after 5 seconds passes after they talk. So there's not going to be give and take, chit chat, going back and forth. That's not the exercise. This is a decidedly different exercise. You want to listen and listen big. Okay, does anyone have a question about the exercise before we start? Okay. 5 minutes. Start. Pick partners and get going. Find out who's tall. Anyone else? Yes.
It shows if you can communicate to the other side and convey your point.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yeah.
and then get the feedback from the other person on whether you've conveyed the point and they got what you were trying to convey, and then communicate with them.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Someone else? Just what was this like?
Well, it was very interesting to hear what I had said and then how the person had interpreted that. And I thought, oh wow, is this me? That's good to hear.
Isn't it? Isn't it? So often, other people see strengths in us we don't see. They see ways of being, they see impacts we've made, they see gifts we have that we just think, oh, well, that's my gift. You know, that's just, doesn't everybody? That comes so easy to me. Doesn't everybody have that? No, actually no. Whatever comes really easily to you is probably a hint that it's a gift. That it's probably something central to your purpose. Anyone else want to report out before we move on? Okay, so I'm going to give you a chance to switch. So now sharing partners become listeners, listeners become sharing partners. Or, did I say that right? Yeah, just switch. We'll go. Everyone's got a story. Did anyone else feel like, I haven't shaped the world? I haven't done anything to be proud of, yeah? Was that your experience? And so the thing is, you have, everyone in this room has shaped the world. You can't not. And it's important to also notice that that's you discounting you. And it's important to say, okay, that's me discounting me. All right, can I put that aside? And now go back and look at my life. Go back to high school, go back to grade school, go back to college, or went to college, and look for it like, what did I do that made a difference? And look at that. Anyone else want to report out on that exercise? Yes?
I think it's important to know that as much as we have discovered our place in terms of our purpose, a lot of what we have uncovered is also how the world has impacted or influenced our decisions to want to do good in the world. And I think that this exercise is so important because I just discovered something about myself in terms of what my purpose really is about.
Thank you so much.
What is it?
I started a company called FSSI, and the first time I ever came to this church, the ministers talked about John Carter and how you embrace your religion and you just carry it with you in everything that you say and everything that you do. I never forgot that one experience. I came here a couple weeks ago and I met somebody. And in the process of it, I looked at so many people in this room and I started really analyzing who was here, why they're here, and what has happened in so many different spaces. People who are hurting, who are homeless, who are really challenged in so many areas. So when you ask me what that purpose is, all we have to do is look around this room. Because there are people who are gifted on so many levels, and for one reason or another, it hasn't been discovered or uncovered even within themselves. And I really do believe that our purpose is to identify that talent and let them know where their gifts really reside and help them find a place where they can exist. Not just coexist, but truly exist.
Yeah, so if you were to go and take all the moments of your life, and I strongly encourage you to force yourself to go to a number like 50 or 100, and even if it's like I learned to read, right? I mean, identify the list of all your accomplishments, everything you feel proud of, everything. Right? And if you start looking at all the ways that you shaped the world and reverse engineered who you were being at that moment, the gifts that you were passionately engaged in employing, and the impact you were making, you would be on your purpose. You would see your purpose. If you did that over and over and over again, the intersection is your purpose. and it would be who you are and why you're here. And let me tell you, my experience of someone who's so clear about who they are and why they're here is so compelling. Whether they show up in a job interview or just for coffee, I see that in people, and it's engaging. It's powerful. And if you do nothing else, if you get nothing else from tonight, I hope, I pray that you figure this out for you so that you can walk tall and strong and be in your purpose. And I'll tell you personally why this is so important for me, is that I have a son on the autism spectrum. And I have to believe every single day that he has a unique set of gifts and talents and ways of being, and that he too has a purpose on the planet, and a purpose that he can employ. And that my believing that makes me a better mom. So it serves me to believe this is true. So that's the part of the paradox of stepping into uniqueness and being clear about how each of us is unique. Then there's the other part that each of us must conform. Okay, what's that about? At a high level, it's that to do the work that is ours to do, we must first shape ourselves to fit the world. Okay, what does that mean? Instead of me explaining it, I'm going to ask the poet David White to explain it. There's a handout on your tables, and it's a poem of David White's. And I'm going to show you a video of David White reading that poem. I asked David to speak at my second TEDx conference, and he did, and part of what he talked about was to recite this poem.
And it's called Working Together. We shape ourselves to fit this world. We shape ourselves to fit this world, and by the world are shaped again. We shape ourselves to fit this world, and by the world are shaped again, the visible and the invisible working together in common cause to produce the miraculous. We shape ourselves to fit this world, and by the world are shaped again, the visible and the invisible working together in common cause to produce the miraculous, to produce the miraculous. I'm thinking of the way the intangible air traveled at speed round a shaped wing easily holds our weight. I'm thinking of the way the intangible air traveled at speed round a shaped wing easily holds our weight. So may we in this life trust to those elements we have yet to see or imagine. So may we in this life trust to those elements we have yet to see or imagine, and find a true shape of our own selves by forming it well to the great intangibles about us. We shape ourselves to fit this world, and by the world are shaped again, the visible and the invisible working together in common cause to produce the miraculous. The miraculous. I'm thinking of the way the intangible air traveled at speed round a shaped wing easily holds our weight. So may we in this life, trust to those elements we have yet to see or imagine. Trust to those elements we have yet to see or imagine, and find the true shape of our own selves by forming it well to the great intangibles about us.
So what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Believe in ourselves.
What's that?
Believe in ourselves.
I'm not
Believe in ourselves.
Believe in ourselves. Yeah. Right. Someone else want to say?
I hear give and take. We're the shapers, and we're shaped. And there's that Churchill quote after the House of Commons was bombed. It goes something like, first we shape our buildings and then we shape us.
That's right.
Both sides.
When we come to the earth, when we fall through the ether, when we hit the earth, we are formed, but we're unformed. We're a block, we're unformed. But as we live on earth, through parents, through education, bits of us are knocked off, and a shape is revealed. We already have a purpose when we fall through the ether. But it's not discovered by the rest of the world until the world has a chance to act on us, to beat on us, to saw pieces off of us. And it's then that the essence arises from what was just once a lump.
Well said. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So it's the shape of our true selves, as David White puts it, the shape of our true selves, right? And the way, what I take it to mean is it's about resolving life's ultimate paradox. That we show up, we have strengths, we have this purpose, and then we must be shaped by the world to find the true shape of ourselves and then produce the miraculous. We can produce the miraculous. Please.
Also said, it's also implying that there are forces at work we're not yet aware of, and that we should trust them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How often have you, just said, I don't know how this is going to work out, and you just trusted the universe to hold you, and it has, right? And it's scary as heck, and you do it, and then you trust the intangibles about you. So here's the question. How do we shape ourselves? Now that we know that we have to shape ourselves, how do we do this? So this becomes incredibly relevant now for you because essentially, like the interview place is where the rubber meets the road. How do I shape myself? And my experience is that we tend to either shape ourselves too little or shape ourselves too much. Or maybe a combination of both. And so I'm thinking about this in the context of the interview. There's a very life context to all of this too, and in the context of the interview. I'm giving you here some maybe clues that you could consider. You may see yourself in some of these that you might be shaping too little. So the archetype for shaping too little is the starving artist, right? The starving artist who starves because he's so unique that no one wants to buy his work, right? And the starving artist is not able to make much of an impact in the world because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's resolving life's paradox, shaping ourselves to fit this world, and having the world shape us again so we can make an impact in the world. And the starving artist makes no impact because no one buys his work. That's the idea of shaping too little. A clue that you might be shaping too little is you blindly stay the course. Unfortunately, there are mountains across the world that are graveyards for mountaineers who stayed the course. Now, what this looks like in a job context is you thinking that the job I have to take has to be at a company that looks like this, and it's got to be a role that looks like this, that has a title like this, and it's going to be in this kind of location, right? Like you get so focused on your job, your career manifesting in a very specific way that you lose track. You don't even see other possibilities that could be so much bigger and so much better. Another clue that you might be shaping too little is not acknowledging mistakes. One of the things that HR managers say about hiring is really common is candidates show up late. And let me tell you, that showing up late is like one of the biggest red flags for a hiring manager, particularly if the candidate doesn't say anything about it. That's because I did a lot of research for this particular talk around interviews and interview managers and hiring mistakes, and what they say is often happens the candidate shows up late and doesn't say anything. And I'll tell you, and I know this is DC, and I know traffic's bad, and I'm in a position where I am interviewing and being interviewed very regularly. I'm a CEO coach, that's what I do for a living. I am interviewed by prospective CEOs who want to hire me for their services, and I interview lots of other people who want what I have, which is a list of 30 CEOs I work with. Right? They want what I have, and they want me to consider referring them to my clients. So I'm in that interviewee space a lot. Right? And let me tell you, I know this is DC, but someone shows up for a meeting with me 5 minutes late and doesn't say anything, I'm like, whose time are you respecting? And I don't care if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. If you don't say anything, I'm like, what does that mean? And I'll make up all kinds of stories about that. So the first clue that you might be shaping yourself too little is not acknowledging mistakes. Related to this is shaping too little is blaming others. Okay, one of the most common mistakes that hiring managers say, candidates make, is they say something in the interview that is blaming about their last boss or their last job. And I'll tell you, what the hiring manager does is they think, woo, they put themselves in the shoes of the last boss and the last job, and they go, oh, that couldn't be me. I wouldn't want anyone saying that about me. And oh, by the way, that's someone who's not taking responsibility for their results. And, they don't care if your last boss was a psychopath. They want to know that you're taking responsibility, that you're creating your life, not having it created for you. Another clue that you might be shaping too little is you're arrogant. Now, I don't know anyone who actually thinks they're arrogant. They just think everyone else is beneath them. So, now, I was so surprised to find out that hiring managers have said that one of the issues about candidates is they show up and they're arrogant or they're disinterested. I'm like, how does that happen? Why even show up? Really? Like I'm too good for this job, or I'm not even interested. Right? So, and if people tell you show up that way, listen to that. I mean, there are people that I know in my life that I don't really consider arrogant, and they're kind of aloof. And if I didn't know them all well, I might think they're arrogant. So that's important to get some feedback on. And showing up passionate and showing up at eye level will serve you well. Another example that you might be shaping too little is that you're rigid. Take me or leave me. This is how I am. I worked with someone at Bank of America years ago who was in the financial field, and he was fairly rigid. And he was dogmatic, he was stubborn, he was not a compromiser, and he thought he was doing a great job in his role. And then when Bank of America had one of its famous downsizings, he was one of the first to go, and he was shocked. He was shocked. He thought standing on his principles and holding his ground was part of his job. He didn't realize, no, that's actually not the way it works. Every job, every role, everyone in the company has to shape themselves to fit this company. Everyone has to collaborate and work together. Last item on shaping yourself too little is your self-focus. So self-focus can look a lot of different ways. Here's one way it looks. You get up and you think about, I've got an interview today. What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? When will I arrive? What will traffic be? What do I want to make sure I say? What are the points I want to make sure I get across? What's the salary? What are the benefits? What's the title? Right? Me, 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 me. And there's a certain amount of that, certainly. I mean, that you want to focus on that. And I'll tell you, what hiring managers want to know is that you're in their shoes, thinking the way they would think. Right? What are the issues affecting their company? How is the economy affecting their company? How is the crazy weather pattern we had all winter affecting their company? What's happening internationally and how does that affect them? What might be the heartburn that those people experience? And you're leaning into that. They want to see that you are honestly taking on their perspective. So in summary, the risk of shaping too little is you miss possibilities. You stop learning, you stop growing, and your world can get smaller. So I'm going to ask you to just take a couple of minutes and share with your partner ways that you may or may not think you shape too little. We'll just do a quick 2-minute exercise. Go. Feedback. Ask everyone you meet in the interview for a process for feedback. Ask colleagues from your last company for feedback. Ask for feedback. It's a gift. Now, I'll tell you, people are very reluctant to give feedback. And it's because people notoriously take it miserably. Most people take feedback very poorly. In fact, what I call the reaction to most people give to feedback is what I call the 4 Ds. They respond in one of 4 Ds. Defensive, denial, discounting, and drama. Right? So defensive is like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not me. And denial is, no way, I've never done that. And discounting is like, what's the big deal? I mean, it's just that, right? And then drama is right, we know what drama looks like, right? If someone takes the time to give you feedback, as hard as that is, say thank you. Thank you. It's a gift. It is how, as Edie was saying, it's how those sharp edges of ours get knocked off. That's how by listening to that feedback. Right? The year 2013 was a year of huge feedback for me. I went through 9 months of yoga teacher training where I got intensive personal feedback. And then I went through a 6 months coach training program where I got feedback on my coaching. And let me tell you, all that feedback just nearly brought me to my knees some days. And I tell you, I'm glad I did it, and I'm a better person for it. And my hope is that I'm more able to shape the world. I'm more able to help my clients because of all that feedback. Okay, here are some clues that you might be shaping too much. So the archetype for shaping too much is yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir. So a sign that you might be shaping too much is that you're trying instead of being. So years ago, I took a presentation skills class, and we were taught the ABCs of presentations. We were videoed constantly. The ABCs, A is for authenticity, B is for believability, and C is for clarity. Right? So I was told, got more feedback. I'm a glutton for punishment. I was told that when it came to clarity, I was great. I'm like, oh, good. When it came to believability, I was good. And that when it came to authenticity, I sucked. I'm like, oh wow, how can I suck at being me? And then I looked at the videos and I saw what they saw, which was me trying. Me trying. So how many of you think you could pick out someone who's trying? Right? They're trying to be a certain way, to be a certain person, right? So you might be shaping yourself too much if you're showing up in an interview and you can feel yourself trying instead of being. You might be shaping yourself too much if you get intimidated. So I worked out of graduate school 25 years ago. I worked at a strategic planning firm downtown. And there was this tall, older, big woman who was senior to me and I worked for. And she intimidated the heck out of me. And I tell you, I felt small around her. And I did not do my best work, and my gifts did not come out to play. And I let that happen. No one can intimidate me without my permission. I allowed her to intimidate me. And I didn't do my best work because of that, and I allowed that to happen. You may be shaping yourself too much if you shape shift. So I know that when you've got a job interview and it's your dream job, or maybe you're customizing your resume, and you want to shape yourself right into that person you think they want, right? Be just like what you think that person is. And the challenge is, you lose your own shape. You become something potentially you're not. And when you shape shift that much, people notice that too. People pick up on that. It's amazing the sixth sense people have for authenticity. Another example that you may be shaping yourself too much is you are too agreeable. The bobblehead, right? So I was given feedback, more feedback, several years ago when I first started doing what I was doing, that when I met with CEO prospects, that I would start asking questions and I would do this. I would do this, like the affirmative nod. I thought I was being, I don't know, supportive or positive or something, right? And I was told I was being solicitous, right? Overly agreeable, right? And people want you to come off at eye level. Right? They want you to show up as not so agreeable. They want you to show up as independent. No one needs the same voice at the company. They need an independent voice. A clue that you may be shaping yourself too much is you stretch too far. Now, it's supernatural to, this is supernatural, I tell you, it's weird. It's supernatural to go into a job and maybe stretch your experience and maybe stretch certain parts of your resume to make sure they kind of fit into what you're looking for. Yeah. And that's such a natural thing, and one of the things that hiring managers say is a common mistake is stretching too far. One, too far to the point that they can verify that it's not true, or to the point that they just smell it, like they don't trust it. It doesn't seem like, doesn't feel right. And last, a clue that you have shaped yourself too much is you lose yourself. You lose track of who you are and what you want. So in summary, the risk of shaping yourself too much is losing your authenticity. Losing yourself, losing your uniqueness. Showing up as small and losing sight of who you are and what you want. So just take a minute, again, share with your partner 2 minutes, and identify ways that you might be shaping yourself too much. Okay, 2 minutes. No. Okay, we'll move on. So when you've shaped yourself too much and you've maybe lost a little bit of yourself in the process, which is so easy to do, particularly in the job hunting approach, then feedback may not be what you want, right? When you've done so much shaping, you don't need any more feedback to shape yourself more. What you want to be doing is listening to what's inside and reflecting on what's inside. So one of the things I use is something called the 5-minute journal. I love my 5-minute journal. You can go on, you can Google it, it's got a little website, it's not very expensive. And what it allows me to do is every single day, reflect on my day. What am I grateful for? What do I want to get done today? Who do I want to be today? And at the end of the day, what did I do today that I feel great about, and what could I have done better? I do the same practice with every single one of my coaching sessions. Every single coaching session, I reflect on what was going on with the client that I didn't see in the moment. What could I have done better? What worked? What will I do differently next time? And I encourage you to do that with every interaction you have in the hiring process. Every phone interview, every interview in the office, any place you have time, a connection with someone on the hiring side, reflect on that. Because it's only in reflection that we can begin to see ourselves and really sharpen our saw and get better and better and better and better and better, faster, by reflecting on every time. So a couple of resources before we complete. I talked about Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. I strongly recommend it, or you can just listen to his TED Talk, add to the 17 million views on TED.com. The other book that I loved was Sir Ken Robinson's talk. So it's interesting, Sir Ken Robinson has the #1 most viewed TED Talk of all time. And he's also written a book called Finding Your Element. Simon Sinek has the #2 most viewed TED Talk of all time. And then one other resource, a couple other resources. I talked about the 5-minute journal. Love my 5-minute journal. And the new, just out yesterday, is a new book by my buddy, Derek Coburn, called Networking is Not Working. It's on Amazon. It's an ebook, $2.99. It's all about how to make networking become more about meaningful connections than about collecting business cards. Highly recommend it. So in closing, what we're talking about today is each of you building what I call your heroic muscle, building and articulating and knowing your strengths and making them even stronger, building the hero within, and then shaping yourself, shaping that hero so that you resolve life's ultimate paradox. You resolve the job paradox. You get that job you want. You have that life you want. And you can produce the miraculous. So in closing, I'm going to ask everybody to stand up and do the victory arms that give us so much confidence. And repeat after me the words on the slide. I will produce the miraculous. Woo! Woohoo! Thank you.
I tell you what, there's so much great stuff tonight. I think about how I left academia and got into the business world, and the way I got to my level of quote-unquote success, if you want to call that, is doing exactly what Alison talked about. Was I would read some stuff, and I'd go into work, take whatever little chapter I might have read, and reflected on the day and said, what? I tried to implement that. How did I do? What could I do better? We used to say, people used to say, don't take your work home at night, right? Take your work home at night, and usually the assumption was, well, don't come home to your wife or your husband and complain about the boss or whatever. That was like, don't take your work at home at night. To me, I do what Alison does, is I go back, and after everything, I reflect, what could I have done better? And if you will do that in your job search, you do that in your career, and I guarantee you, you can make amazing progress. 1% better each and every day, you'd be surprised. And let me tell you one other quick thing. I'm giving an example of a guy I've been coaching with now for probably 2 years, find a new opportunity. CEO, very highly paid individual, very few jobs equivalent to what he's been doing, so he's been having to stretch and use transferable skills. And when we first started, he was hoping he was going to find his next opportunity in the same vein. And as the time progressed, guess what he had to do? He had to think more about his strengths, had to really think about what he brought to the table. And he's just gotten to find out that he's like a finalist out of 2 people interviewing for an opportunity that is a museum. And he's never done museum stuff. And he's never run a facility. He's done programming. And so I had him follow up with a recruiter and say, you know, did that come up? What was the issue? And they said, they loved you. You were so enthusiastic. Well, you know how he got that way? Is he spent enough time thinking about his skill set. He thought, spent enough time thinking about what he really brought to the table, that after all of this period of time, what he was going for is he finally figured out how to package himself up in a way that he was authentic, energized, motivated, and he's going after a position now that's not exactly like what he's done before. But before, when he did that, when we debrief, he was not getting very good traction. But this time that you have right now when you're in transition, to do the kinds of things that Alison's talking about, to do those stories, to really think hard about who you are, what you bring to the table, resolving that paradox is huge for you. And on the last piece, because I know we had, I don't know if the women still here sort of got a little emotional at one point talking about their story. There's a woman that we've had here present many times, Sheer Harrington, and I still remember the day she had me up in the cafeteria upstairs and was probably doing her coaching piece and getting me to talk about things, and I absolutely started bawling. And she said, you know, you're like business dad. You know, I just care a lot about my employees and people, and she just drew all this stuff out of me that I didn't realize was what my passion was. And it's wonderful when you can get to that point and know who you are. So, on that note, again, Alison, thank you. We'll give you some time. Of course, you made me go out and read her entire presentation because I believe so much of what you just said. So thank you. Outstanding. I won't do as good a job, but thank you, Alison. On that note, let me pass the mic over to Edie to wrap us in prayer.
Let us stand. It's on, right? We are standing now to God. Yes. For some of us, the C chord was hit. The C chord was hit. The chord was hit. There are nights when it's for me. How many of you out there, tonight was for me? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Father, thank you. Thank you for this magnificent gift. Thank you so much for coming and visiting us tonight with your very special angel for us. It was so wonderful. We just want to praise you and thank you for what you have done, because this is it. This is the night we feel blessed. We feel renewed. We learned a little something. And because of that, we're able to continue to put one foot in front of the other. We feel like going on. We feel like going on. Thank you so much. Now as we go into our homes of abode, take us there in peace and in safety. And if we have an opportunity to come back victorious, come back in any other way, we will still give you praise, and we will still give you honor, because you still are our God. We love you. In our Savior's name, amen.